and I'm going to tie this with sports because obviously there's been a lot of talk about NBA star or Brooklyn Nets star Kyrie Irving taking a taking a very significant stance against vaccination mandates. And NBA Hall of Famer Sir Charles Barkley, which is no surprise, or it shouldn't be any surprise to any of us that that he would have something to say about this matter. We've seen many sportscasters over the last over several weeks now that have pretty much crucified and vilified Kyrie Irving for his stance. Much the same way many of the same sportscasters did Colin Kaepernick just a few short years ago. And now we have Charles Barkley saying not to compare Kyrie Irving's situation with the actions of Muhammad Ali. If we all remember, or if we can take ourselves back to the era of Muhammad Ali, who was stripped of his world title for refusing to enter into the United States military. And he was not paid for his 3-year layoff, obviously, because he couldn't fight, which was predominantly how he made his living at that time. He did speaking tours in the meanwhile. Did he make significant, was he paid significantly for those talks? No, of course not. So, yes, he did lose a lot financially, but this goes far beyond finances. Muhammad Ali took a stance on principle, much the same way Colin Kaepernick did, much the same way Kyrie Irving is doing, much the same way other NBA players. We have Jonathan Isaac from the Orlando Magic, who's taken a stand against being unvaccinated. Not necessarily saying anything negative about those that have been vaccinated within the NBA, but nonetheless, many sports figures have stepped up and said either I'm not going to take the vaccine, or they will say that my medical history and my position on vaccines or my vaccination status is the business of my own and my immediate family. U.S. or the Australian Open tennis champion, current tennis champion, Novak Djokovic. The Minister of Immigration said that all people entering into Australia must be double vaccinated before you can enter into the country, which means that the Australian Open current title holder cannot defend his title at the Australian Open unless he is vaccinated. He can't even come into the country unless he's vaccinated. And in the case of Australia, quote, double vaccinated, according to the Australian immigration minister. His name is Alex Hawke. So anyone that comes into Australia must be double vaccinated in order to enter the country of Australia. But going back to Charles Barkley and his comparison, or his stating to never compare this situation with Kyrie Irving to that of Muhammad Ali. Again, it's a matter of principle versus the status of the team on whether they win a championship or not. You see many of your sportscasters, whether it's Stephen A. Smith or Shannon Sharp or Jamel Hill, all of their stances are Kyrie Irving needs to take the vaccine, because if he doesn't, he could hurt his team's chances of winning a championship. Meaning that the winning a championship is more important to the team versus Kyrie Irving or any other NBA player making a personal decision on their health and wellness. This is a personal decision that they have the right to exercise. Being in America, we also had another NBA player that was denied vaccine exemption through his religious beliefs. Andrew Wiggins of the Golden State Warriors said he was pretty much forced or heavily coerced to take the vaccine because the NBA denied him vaccine exemptions for his religious beliefs. The NBA denied it because he put in an exemption application to not be vaccinated because of his religious beliefs, which is his First Amendment right here in America. And the National Basketball Association denied him an exemption of being vaccinated for his religious beliefs. Isn't that the same belief that Muhammad Ali had, because which is the reason why he didn't enter into the Vietnam War, because of his religious belief? But this NBA player is denied for the same reason. I mean, what are we doing? What is that saying? I mean, we have another NBA player that from the Atlanta Hawks that he says he was injured through his name is Brandon Goodwin. Claims that his vaccine, he was just fine until he got the vaccine earlier this year, and was complaining that he was getting shortness of breath and he was being tired running up and down the court, and his playing skills wasn't up to par because he was having complications. And when he went to the doctor, found out that he had multiple blood clots. Nothing prior to the vaccine, but lo and behold, once he got that vaccine, blood clots, which is becoming all too common as an effect of this specific vaccine being administered. So there are many people or athletes that have stepped forward and made a decision not to go along with the narrative. I hope Kyrie Irving doesn't fold the same way King James did. And stand your ground. I mean, there are very few needles in this haystack. Just like there were very few needles in the haystack when Muhammad Ali stood up for his religious beliefs. There were very few people that stood side by side with him at that particular time. We're talking about the mid-1960s. You had other sports figures. You had Jim Brown. You had Bill Russell and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at that time. And we've seen Kareem Abdul-Jabbar do a complete 180. He's totally for the vaccine. But 50 some years ago, he was on the side of Muhammad Ali, being one that practices the religion of Islam, or being Muslim, as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is. But he has said boldly on national television, as of recent weeks, that he is definitely for NBA players taking the vaccine, much the same way Charles Barkley is heavily a supporter of all athletes in the NBA getting the vaccine. And if they choose not to, they don't deserve to have their contracts honored when it comes to their pay. And it's sports figures have definitely been put into a box. It's the old just shut up and dribble attitude. We remember that. Just shut up and dribble. And this is what many of your NBA or sports commentators wish for the athletes to do. Just shut up and throw the ball. Just shut up and dribble. This is what you are getting paid millions of dollars for, to just shut up and dribble. And again, sports commentators are, they are so engrossed in their profession, which is fine. You know, hey, this is their profession, and this is what they do for a living. This is how they make their living. Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp and Jamel Hill and Skip Bayless and any other commentator, sports commentator that I may have missed. Hell, even Bob Costas, you name it. They all get compensated by giving their analysis on sports and or sports figures. But being that they are on mainstream television, they must advocate a certain narrative. You know, I mean, if you notice, all of your sports, let's go culture for a minute. Just let's indulge in culture right now. These are predominantly black commentators vilifying a black athlete for not adhering to the social narrative. It's been well documented that we, as African people, or I like to say we're colonialized Africans, that we've been we've been put in such a tight bubble that it's hard to look at our culture and not see the double standard or the atrocities that have occurred when it comes to our culture, when it comes to our culture and health, or health matters. It's really no secret that the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, has hid evidence for 10 to 15 plus years that vaccines are harmful to black men, more so than they are to black women and or Caucasian boys and girls. This is documented, and there's really no need to even try to dispute it. I mean, this is all evidence that has been all too well documented on several platforms over the last 10 plus years now, that vaccines cause greater damage to black men than any other culture on the planet. This is documented. And for various reasons that I may go into on another video, but nonetheless, it has been proven that all vaccines, are most harmful towards African men. So, with that being said, it's amazing to me that these sports commentators are riding the NBA players so hard that choose to have a different opinion, that choose to have a different dialogue, and that choose to have a different stance on how their health is going to be administered. Whether they're going to take care of their own health, or whether they're going to have a government uh, or a pharmaceutical industry make all the decisions for one's health. Um, so I'm with Kyrie Irving and Colin Kaepernick and any other athlete, Muhammad Ali, uh, uh, John Carlos, you name it. Anybody that has taken a stand versus the status quo, and I'm just talking about sports, um, my hat goes off to them. I mean, hell, we can even go into the scandal with the girls on the U.S. gymnastics team, which is a whole nother subject, but it still ties into how many issues are swept under the rug when it comes to sports and sports figures. Um, and because we're in a COVID-19 era, um, again, we've been told that only the vaccine will get us out of this predicament. Um, and we've seen multiple sports figures come out in favor of taking the vaccine. Irvin Magic Johnson has come out in favor of the vaccine as well. And it's interesting that back in 1991, Irvin Magic Johnson came forward with his famous press conference saying that because of the HIV virus that he contracted, he would have to retire from the NBA. And that was all that was said, and he walked off stage just as quickly as I just said it. 30 years later, it's really interesting how the rules and the tables have turned. Because after Irvin Magic Johnson made that announcement back in 1991, he went on to play for the United States Olympic basketball team in 1992 in Barcelona, Spain. Back in 1991, Irvin Magic Johnson, NBA Hall of Famer, a man that I used to want to emulate, him and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I used to want to be just like them in elementary school. Back in 1991, he made his famous announcement that because of his HIV virus that he contracted, that he would have to retire from the National Basketball Association. And he walked off stage, and that was all we heard of it. 30 years. It's been 30 years. And Irvin Magic Johnson is a proponent of all of the NBA taking their vaccinations. Well, back in 1992, Magic Johnson participated as being one of the players with the 1992 U.S. Olympic team that went to Barcelona, Spain. He didn't have to take any vaccines of any kind. None of the NBA players had to take an AZT vaccine or an AZT pill for protection. No one in the NBA, now there were a few skeptics, there were a few NBA players that were hesitant to play on the same court with Magic Johnson, because at that time still very little was revealed to us about HIV and who it affects and how it's contracted. So many people were hesitant to play on the same court as Irvin Magic Johnson. The entire country didn't have to have a mandate for us to have some sort of HIV or what do they call it? Acquired immune deficiency. We didn't have to take any type of vaccine for that. The entire country didn't have to have a mandate. California didn't have to have a mandate for anyone to take some sort of vaccine as a preventative measure for HIV. No adult, no teenager, none of that. This is in the early 90s. But today, in 2021, many sports figures that we've looked up to for decade upon decade upon decade are huge proponents of taking the vaccine. And when you're a part of mainstream America, very few people take political or social stances for fear of losing their social status or their financial status. Very few people are willing to give that up for their core values and their principles. Very few sports figures are willing to do that. Very few. For younger players of this generation, poverty has always been at the forefront of why young players willingly sign these big contracts fresh out of high school or fresh out of college, because they want to get their families out. They want to get their families out of poverty. I get it. But at the same time, most of these elite athletes still don't know enough about health and wellness to possibly make a different decision on whether the vaccine is right for them or not. Many, if not most, elite athletes would never need to be vaccinated because their immunity levels will be so high. I mean, it would be virtually impossible for a COVID-19 or influenza or measles or any other virus for that matter to infiltrate the body at that magnitude. If you notice on television, they always show the most unhealthy people trying to convince the unvaccinated to get vaccinated. They always show people that are in the hospital, tubes in the mouth, tubes in the nose. They're already have multiple conditions that COVID-19 has just exacerbated or amplified on such a level that many people have succumbed to their conditions that possibly otherwise they could have gotten better. So Colin Powell, General Colin Powell, just passed away yesterday. According to his family, it was complications due to coronavirus 19. And if you notice, they really glanced over his legacy as quickly as possible, shutting down any notions that the vaccine had anything to do with it when he was completely and fully vaccinated. This is what his family has stated, that the complications due to coronavirus was the cause of his death. Now, obviously, we're going to get something official from a from a coroner, but other sources, we don't know who these sources are, but now we're learning that he had Parkinson's disease, he had a form of blood cancer, and now they're attaching all of these other symptoms to his passing of coronavirus. So again, it begs the question: what is the vaccine truly for, and who is it truly helping? If we're seeing more and more people that are being infected by the coronavirus, even though they are vaccinated with 1, 2, or 3 doses, and now we have to take boosters because we know, because they've told us that the effectiveness will diminish over time. Which means that you'll have to take boosters probably once every 6 months, just like they have conditioned us to believe that we have to take an influenza shot every 6 months, or an MMR, or a DTaP, or a tuberculosis shot on such a frequent basis. Anybody that understands the magic of the human anatomy knows that we've been living here far too long or we've coexisted with the virus. We've coexisted with bacterium for millions of years without having to be inoculated with any such substances. I'm not even going to go into the ingredients that make up the standard vaccine, let alone this specific COVID mRNA vaccine or shot or inoculation. Most sports commentators don't have the knowledge about how the human anatomy works and how wondrous it is, and how wondrous it has been for millions of years without the idea of having to be inoculated just to live on this planet. It's an insane concept. It's insane. It's insanity. But when you believe the lie over and over and over and over and over again, we're expecting a different result, but the pushback is real. And the pushback is because more and more people are becoming wise to the pharmaceutical industrial complex, the opioid crisis. Very few people talk about the opioid crisis and how many people are choosing to not take opioids, and they're choosing other options of health and healing. Things like cannabis and or CBD and or even THC, and all properties that go along with the cannabis plant. Many people are choosing this as an option versus choosing opioids, which we know all opioids are damaging to the liver, or all synthetic medications, period, are damaging to the liver and kidneys to varying degrees. This has been well documented, but when you see the same physicians on television telling you otherwise, telling you in essence that your human body isn't capable of healing anything, that the only way your body can have an immune response is for us to inject you with the virus first, then that will wake your immune system up. Nothing before will do this. Only a vaccine will jumpstart your immune system. Nothing else. Not nutrition, not the foods of the earth, not things that have been here for millions of years, that have been provided by the ether or by whatever spirit you adhere to. Everything that we've ever needed for life has been provided for us. Everything that we've ever need or ever needed to live on this planet for hundreds of years has been provided for us. When we go against the grain, when we as a society and as a culture, when we are thoroughly conditioned to buy into what some religious people call the world's way of doing things, i.e., the medical industry. Some people think this is a conspiracy. Some people believe that anti-vaxxers are somehow a part of a cult, or the term anti-vaxxer, when it comes to mainstream television or news networks. They always use terms that will literally stir the pot. And then you see sports commentators, Stephen A. Smith, literally screaming at his audience, or screaming at his other commentators. I mean, it's almost like he's a part of the team, or he has invested interest for his blood to boil, and for him to get so emotionally stirred up over one person making a personal decision to say, there are other things that are more important than dribbling this basketball. There are other things that are more important than dribbling the basketball or making sure I hit this free throw. There are other things that are more important to him than whether we win a championship or not. There are more important things in being a black athlete in America. Again, the notion is that the athletes aren't supposed to have any opinion about anything outside of their respective sport. Colin Kaepernick is not supposed to have an opinion about police brutality. How dare he have an opinion about police brutality? How dare he? How dare Kyrie Irving have a different opinion against the narrative that all Americans need to have this vaccine administered, whether they want it to be administered or not, in America? How dare he have a different opinion? How dare he? How dare Muhammad Ali say, no, I'm not going to go to Vietnam to kill other brown-skinned people that never call me a nigger? I mean, come on, what are we doing in America? And he said it himself, you won't even stand up for me for my religious beliefs here at home. Here at home. That's what Muhammad Ali said. But Charles Barkley says, don't compare any other sports figure to Muhammad Ali. But the principle is still the same. This ain't about finances and millions of dollars. I'm pretty sure Kyrie Irving understands how much money is on his table. Just like Colin Kaepernick did. They understand there's millions of dollars on the line, but there's a million ways to make $1 million. Not just by dribbling a basketball or throwing a football into the end zone. And for black men specifically, we need to know culturally that there's a number of ways to make $1 million outside of being a sports figure. Now, for all these sports commentators of today on ESPN and all these networks, for them, this is how they make their living. They're not going to go against the narrative because it may cost them their livelihood, possibly. But if you notice, very few sports commentators have sided with Kyrie Irving or anybody else that happens to take this stand. So I hope that Kyrie Irving, especially at this point, the season has started. So hopefully he will stick to his guns and again not fold like LeBron James. King James folded. uh, Again, we have bigger fish to fry versus whether we win a title or not. We have bigger fish to fry. There's much bigger issues. I mean, and I'm sure other NBA athletes see this as well. I'm pretty sure other NFL athletes see this as well. You know, I mean, and this is all over the world. Obviously, we see that the Australian title holder in tennis, he can't even defend his title unless he gets double vaccinated, according to the Australian immigration minister, Mr. Alex Hawke. I mean, this is a global. This is global. The push is global. The push is global. And the pushback is global as well. Obviously, the pushback is global. And we can go back and compare it to Muhammad Ali. Why not? He stood on his principle, and many people crucified him for it, and he became world famous because of it. Not because he was the heavyweight champion 3 times, but because he stood up on his individual principle. And he called everybody else out on it too. That's why. And now Kyrie Irving and Colin Kaepernick and other sports figures around the world are taking the same kind of stance. And why not? Why not? They're human beings, and they do have a voice, and they have the right to exercise it. Just like I have the right to exercise exactly my words in these videos. I have the right to exercise them. There may be people that are watching this video that may disagree, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing, and it's okay. But the person making the opinion doesn't have to be vilified because their opinion differs from the status quo narrative. That doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's just like they had I can't think of the doctor's name. They tried to crucify him last night after Colin Powell's death. They had a doctor on to make sure that the narrative doesn't get out that this COVID shot is safe and effective. And obviously many people have passed away due to injuries from the shot or have had COVID-19 after getting the shot, or the second shot or the third shot, depending on which conglomerate was chosen for the vaccine. Oh, and now they're talking about mixing and matching. I mean, you talk about mixing cocktails. I mean, gelatin shots have nothing on this kind of cocktail. I mean, we're talking an entirely different level of medical. Oh gosh, I can't even think of the words that explain what's going on as far as the concept of mixing vaccines or having one cocktail mixed with a different cocktail. So now you have a brand new cocktail, which can potentially be worse for the human body to handle. I mean, you talk about tainting the blood to the highest degree, mixing and matching Johnson & Johnson and Moderna and and Pfizer. If you're over in Europe, AstraZeneca, and all of the other pharmaceutical conglomerates that are manufacturing these cocktail of shots. From a cultural position, again, we as African people here in America, or colonialized Africans, have literally fallen into we've gotten so far away from our own sciences that we've drafted the blueprint of Euroscience, science or medical science that has nothing to do with our genetic makeup, and it's caused generational damage. Generationally, it's been damaging for us as a culture. This is why we only have, we take up maybe 15% of the U.S. population, but we have some of the highest levels of illness in America. And this is generational. This is no accident. This is generational because we've bought into the notion that Rockefeller science or European science is the end all versus what nature has provided for us, again, for hundreds of thousands of years. And then again, our religious freedoms have been taken away from, and I say we, not that I belong to any religion, but nonetheless, I'm a part of society, so I say we. Our religious rights are obviously being stripped. Our personal and medical freedoms are being stripped. The bigger push to have children be vaccinated with this particular shot, ages 5 to 11. That's the age range that's being plastered over the news. Ages 5 to 11 to take the vaccine, or this COVID-19 vaccine or booster. When most of us, most parents, haven't even asked what's in this vaccine and how is this vaccine going to help the innate magic of my child and his health and well-being. What's in this shot that's going to make my child's immune system even greater than it already is? Most people in the news media never ask the unvaccinated why they are choosing not to be vaccinated. To really allow someone that's not vaccinated to give a really legitimate, understandable reasoning of why a vaccine of this caliber may not be the wisest health choice or health practice, especially being that everything about this vaccine is under emergency. Everything about it. And everyone that has participated is a recipient of being a part of a nationwide clinical trial. That's pretty much what this is. And many parents never ask their physicians what makes up the vaccine, what is the ingredient list. I believe the president is going to have a not a press conference, but a town hall meeting, potentially discussing the vaccine, along with other topics. If I know politics, all questions are going to be vetted before they are before these questions are asked to the president, because we don't want to stir the pot and have it boil any more than it already is on a national platform. So my guess is that no real hard questions will be asked of the president. But again, we here in America, we keep showing the most unhealthy people trying to convince unvaccinated people to be vaccinated. The most unhealthy people, people that are in the hospitals, people that say, "Oh, I wish I had gotten the vaccine sooner," or people that are saying, "Oh, I got the vaccine, but I'm still sick because my diabetes has amplified, or my heart condition, or my blood clots have multiplied." You name it. So just be aware that sports figures have a voice. Sports figures have a voice. Sports figures are intelligent. And obviously, you have a select few that take their intelligence and harness it to their advantage to say, you know what, there's something greater than this basketball team, or there's something greater than this football team. There's something greater than a Super Bowl. There's something greater than an NBA championship or title. And there's a ton of things that are more important than winning a championship, or I'm letting my team down because I don't want to get a shot. What does that say about the rest of the team? If they're depending on this one person, what does that say about the rest of the team? What are they saying about the rest of the team and their talents? That one person is going to crumble an entire group. I mean, if one person is gone, that means that the other teammates have to step up their game. And whoever's going to replace that one person, they're going to have to step up their game as well. Your title is, if it's that important to you, allow it to keep being that important. That means somebody else will have to take the reins, because somebody else in the team believes that there is other things that are more important. Like my health and well-being. We see one person was already injured from the vaccine. He can't even play this year. Brandon Goodwin. He can't play at all this year because he's having complications due to him having those shots. But none of the sports commentators are saying anything about that. It's all about Kyrie Irving. One man that chose to make a different decision. And all hell has to break loose. The heavens have to crumble now. There's a great tsunami that has been cast upon him. One person or a few people. But in this case, he's had the most, he's been vilified the most. So, but my hat goes off to you, sir, Mr. Kyrie Irving. Keep standing your ground. None of the other sports commentators are living in your shoes. Nor, obviously, do they want to. Because, again, once you go against the grain, they're going to feel the wrath, just like Kyrie Irving is. And they know this. And again, these are predominantly black sports figures, people of African descent, that are vilifying another African for having an opinion. I mean, you talk about black on black crime. I mean, this is it as well. Why can't we praise this person, this man, this African person? Why can't we praise him for going against the grain? I mean, anytime you give up your freedoms for a little bit of security, you will have neither. And I'm paraphrasing a quote from Benjamin Franklin. People can say things about him as well, being one of the quote forefathers of America. That's another discussion. But at the same time, people are giving up their freedoms just so they can get back to what they believe is normalcy. And this pandemic, nothing will ever be back to quote normal again. Things have changed. People have, more and more people are stepping out of the matrix. More and more people are stepping outside of the matrix. That's what this is. More and more people are stepping outside of the matrix. And it's a good thing. It just goes to show that more and more people are becoming leaders versus becoming followers. And when you follow your own lead, you will have people that will... there are people, obviously, that side with Kyrie Irving. And other NBA players and other NFL players are just sports figures, period. Because he's not the only one. But again, my hat goes off to them because they made a choice. They made a choice. And they'll come to understand that it was the best choice for them. Because at the end of the day, none of those other teammates, they don't live his life. They don't live in his home. They don't live with his family. They don't know what his medical history is. They don't know what his family's medical history is. They don't know what his they don't know if some NBA players might be vegan for all they know. And we all know a vegan is not going to have anything administered, any foreign substances administered to them. So if an elite athlete states that they are vegan, then what are you going to tell them? That we don't care about your veganism? You're going to take this shot anyway. That's what you're going to say? NBA commissioners or NFL commissioners? Because again, to them, it's all about revenue and it's all about whether they get that title or not. They don't care about the players and what the players think and believe. Obviously, because they didn't accept Andrew Wiggins' religious exemption. They said, hell no, we don't care about your religious beliefs. You're going to shut up and dribble, no matter what your religious beliefs are. That's pretty much what they're saying. We don't care what your religious beliefs are. The same way they did to Muhammad Ali. We don't care what your religious beliefs are. We're going to take your livelihood. That's what they're saying. We don't give a damn about you or your medical history or your veganism or your religious belief. We don't care if your parents are vegetarian. We don't care if you're vegan, if you grew up not eating meat. We don't care about none of that. As long as you sign that contract and dribble that ball up and down the court. As long as you throw 10 touchdowns. That's what we care about. As long as you bring home a title. That's what we care about. We don't care about what you believe in. We can care less about your beliefs. We can care less about your opinions. And again, we can go cultural. I mean, we all know that more than half of the NFL is predominantly of African people. We know that the NBA is predominantly African people being controlled by non-African people. I'll even go as far as to say, hey, this could be another form of slavery. I mean, if you don't take this vaccine, we're going to crack the whip on you. We're going to crack the whip. If you don't take that vaccine, oh, you got it coming to you. It's okay to have a different opinion. It's okay. It's okay. And it's okay if people disagree with your opinion. It's okay. Um, Stick to your guns and stick to your guns. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Your health is your responsibility. It's not your doctor's. It's not the NBA. It's not the NFL's responsibility. It's not your primary physician. It's not your chiropractor. Um, your health is your responsibility. You don't have to become a physician, but if you know some basic things about how you operate as a human being outside of the four basic food groups, which is another subject altogether, um, learn how your body operates and learn what it truly takes to function at an optimal level. The vaccine has never been needed for the human body to function at an optimal level. That's a biological truth. Um, Unfortunately, many physicians that have gone to medical school, they fervently believe in the standard allopathic European style or way of dealing with health matters. Or in this case, in America, it's mostly illness and pathology matters um, versus health and wellness. So just do the best that you can to do the best that you can to learn all that you can about what it takes for the body to function, and you can live for a hell of a long time, and you won't have to be dependent on the television telling you what's best, or a political figure telling you what's best, or a nationally appointed physician or a government appointed physician telling you what's best for you. Um, so yeah, let's try to learn more. Let's just learn more, because the narrative has gotten us into trouble. Look at all the chaos that's going on. Medical chaos. Look at what's going on. Why? Because many people are unfortunately ignorant to health matters. I mean, it's October right now. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and you haven't really heard too much about breast cancer awareness on mainstream television. Very little has been spoken about breast cancer awareness. And because coronavirus can definitely um, amplify the effects of breast cancer. It could potentially cause it to spread more because you're suppressing your immune system again. The kinetic hour is coming soon, so be ready for that. I'll be interviewing just people, interviewing physicians, people that understand health as a birthright and as a choice, and people that are non-physicians that have taken the time to do their own due diligence to learn about health. Health matters, and just learn just some basics about what it takes to be healthy on all such levels. So yes, the kinetic hour is coming. We'll be talking about health matters. We'll be talking about sports in conjunction with how it pertains to health. We'll be talking about religion and how religion plays a role in health. I mean, because during this time, the coronavirus has infiltrated every aspect of life, and so the kinetic hour will be speaking upon all subjects. No subject will be on the shelf. Many subjects will be discussed, even certain subjects that are considered taboo. You name it, whether it has to do with medicine, relationships, health, business, the economy, social activism. The Kinetic Hour will be tackling every subject that affects us as a global populace, as a global population, because when we think that things are only happening here, believe me, it's happening somewhere else around the world. And many people have the same opinions that I've been giving as well. Some people disagree, but there are many people that do agree. And it needs to be discussed. We need to have dialogues. We can't keep sweeping certain subjects under the rug for fear of backlash and for fear of ridicule and being vilified, vilification, and you name it. No subject should be off the table. The only way we can heal is to learn and not be fearful of learning about other people's cultures, about your own culture, and allowing people to be heard on a higher platform. So be on the lookout for the Kinetic Hour.